Hello everyone and welcome to 𝗣𝗨 India. We cover stories and news which are related to the issues and harassments faced by men. Today we are having with us Advocate Suman Ganguly, who is a senior advocate at Kolkata High Court. We request each and every one of you to watch this video till end, as this video is going to be very informative for you, and by the end of this video you are going to know a lot many things. So let us welcome Mr. Suman Ganguly.
Hello, Mr. Ganguly, and welcome to 𝗣𝗨 India. And thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
As you know that 𝗣𝗨 India is an organization that generally covers stories and news which are related to the issues and harassments faced by men. Because the harassments that are actually faced by men is not very much popular among the people due to various reasons. And one of the main reason is the lack of awareness. So when we talk about rape, then we generally think that rape can only be done by a man and the victim can only be a woman. Whereas it is not the case. It is not so. So my first question to you is the rape law applicable to both the genders, like men and women? Like if a man is being raped by a woman, or maybe a man, or maybe the other gender, the third gender, then can he file a complaint? Because in many cases we have seen that the police officials, they also, they're reluctant to take up such a complaint. So what do you have to say about this particular thing, rape law? Is it applicable to men as well? And if they can file a complaint, then what is the procedure or what steps they need to take?
See, firstly, the problem with the rape law and many other laws in India is that these laws are not gender neutral. Okay. So, though our constitution, obviously, you know this, that our constitution says that there will be no discrimination on the basis of gender, caste, creed, etc. But unfortunately, there is an element of bias here when it comes to rape laws and other harassment laws. Now, talking about rape laws, 375 of the Indian Penal Code covers rape. Okay. And it is obvious that from the plain reading and from different judgments, and we all know this, that this law, this particular section is not gender neutral. So the fruits of this section, of this particular section of the rape laws, that can be, that is applicable only to women, not even to the third gender or men. Now, coming back to your question was twofold. One was that if a woman being in a power of being in a position of power or otherwise also rapes a man, which is otherwise possible in our society, we all know this. But the law has not moved that far. So, to answer your question in a direct way, no, the rape law is not applicable to a man. I mean, the man cannot be a victim under the rape law. Rape law means section 375 defines rape, and 376 is a punishment section. No, the answer is straight no. But yes, if a man rapes another man, then there is a provision that is covered by section 377. We all know about section 377, how it was decriminalized and all, but the entire section has not been struck off. Only consensual sex between two adults, that has been decriminalized for obvious reasons, and that's a very welcome judgment. But yes, if a man rapes another man, obviously when the word rape comes, there is no consent. There cannot be any consent. It is not a consensual thing. So there is an application of force over there. So for that, if a man rapes another man, yes, section 377 is there. But unfortunately, if a woman rapes a man, then there's no provision.
Okay, so that means if
this is the problem, but yes, I know many organizations like yours and other organizations over here also, they are fighting for it. We are fighting for getting this laws gender neutral, because this is what the society demands, and with the evolution of the society, the law must also evolve. This is what we say. But unfortunately, till date, academically speaking, the answer is as I say.
Okay. Then if you talk about the acid attacks, Like from the last few days, we have seen there has been frequent news about a woman attacking a man with 5 liters of acid. And this is not the only case. Even in the past also, ऐसा कई बार हुआ है जहाँ पे एक औरत ने एक मर्द पे एसिड फेंका है. But we have so many news channels covering such news जहाँ पे एक लड़की पे एक लड़का एसिड फेंकता है. We have films about it. But when a woman is throwing acid on a man, अगर वो लड़का जल गया, then there is I think only one or two, maybe hardly, news channels will be covering such news, and there is so much lack of awareness. तो अगर एक लड़की ने लड़के पे एसिड फेंका, तो क्या उसको भी वही सेम पनिशमेंट मिल सकती है when a man throws acid on a woman? Because
Yes.
generally, we see that if a man is throwing an acid, then he gets life imprisonment for a particular amount of year and some penalty. तो अगर एक वुमन एक लड़की अगर एक लड़के पे एसिड फेंकती है, तो क्या उसे भी वो सेम पनिशमेंट मिलेगी या उसे छोड़ दिया जाएगा just because she is a woman?
Yes, going by the books, the woman will be punished in the same way as a man will be punished. So, acid, throwing of acid is covered under section 326P of the Indian Penal Code. Under that section, it is a gender neutral section. It starts with the word whoever. So obviously, if a woman throws acid on a man, he or she will get the same punishment if the case were otherwise. Now the problem is, yes, there are sections, there are provisions like throwing of acid. This part is covered in Indian Penal Code, and obviously the man can, the victim, who if he is a man, he will get the same benefit as that of a woman. Now, what you are saying that these things are not covered by news channels. Yeah, it's a fact. This is a basic problem that we don't talk about these issues. And somewhere maybe men are also responsible for this because man don't cry and those taglines are there. Na? So this basic concept of alpha man, this becomes another problem. See, if a man is beaten up by his wife, he is man physically abused by his wife, there are very few instances when he goes to the police station and reports it. The next part is whether the police will take that complaint seriously, whether the police will investigate that complaint seriously. That is another aspect. But before that, it's very seldom that men will go to the police station or even to family members or friends saying that I have been beaten up by my wife. So yes, anyhow, regarding throwing of acid, it is covered under section 326P of IPC, which is gender neutral. And so if a woman throws acid on a man, she will be getting the same amount of imprisonment if the offense is proved.
Okay. Sir, is there any such kind of case that you know where a woman has thrown acid on a man and she got punishment, like she got punished? Any such case do you know? जहाँ पे ऐसा हुआ है, actually में punishment मिला है?
No, I haven't personally handled. But yes, obviously
Okay.
we have gone through case laws where there are instances. But it's again,
Okay.
I'm saying it's a very rare. It's a very rare.
Rare. Yes. That's what. Okay.
See, either the incidents are rare or the complaints which have been filed are rare.
That's the problem.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's very rare that we find go across such cases.
Okay. And one common thing that is like happening nowadays is this false cases filed by the wives. ऐसा बहुत cases है जहाँ पे we have so many instances where we see that the case filed by the wife on her husband or her in-laws is fake. It could be a 498A or it could be a dowry or DV, etc. So if a man is implicated in a false case, then after the case has been registered, what steps should be taken by the man in order to prevent himself or save himself, and to prevent himself from suffering much, or what kind of precautions he need to take after the case has been already registered against the husband? What are the steps that needs to be taken by that husband?
It depends on the type of cases that are being faced by the husband. See, if it is a case under section 498A, which is cruelty against women, against wife, 406, which is criminal breach of trust and all. If the cases are filed under such sections, and if the police starts a case, then obviously that the husband or whoever is implicated in those proceedings, they have to approach the court for bail. Okay, so because these are penal offenses, section 498A, 406, or dowry related cases, these are penal offenses. So if the police starts a case based on the complaint of the wife, then the husband or the in-laws or other in-laws, if whoever are implicated, they need to move the court, and they need to apply for bail and get the bail and obtain bail from the learned court. And once they are granted bail by the learned court, then what happens? Then the investigation of the case goes on. After investigation of the case, this is how it goes on. After investigation of the case, charge sheet is filed. If a prima facie case is proved against the husband or the in-laws, then a charge sheet is filed. Once the charge sheet is filed, then charge is framed, followed by a trial. What is a trial? In the charge sheet, if a charge sheet is filed, then witnesses are cited in the charge sheet, like the victim, the alleged victim, and other witnesses. Then one by one, the court will summon these witnesses. These witnesses will come before the court. They will say what they have to say in their according to the prosecution story and all. The defense, that is the person, that is the lawyers who will be representing the husband or the in-laws, that lawyer will have the chance of cross-examining those prosecution witnesses. So this entire trial goes on, and after the conclusion of the trial, if the court finds that person guilty based on what evidence is forthcoming, if the court finds that person guilty, obviously the court will send that person to imprisonment. And if the court doesn't find that person guilty, then the court will acquit that person. Now, you used the word false case. How do we define that? Because what happens, say, in cases where 498, etc., dowry deaths or dowry cases, what happens after the evidence, after the trial goes on, after the trial is over, the court says that, well, you are acquitted because the prosecution has not been able to prove their case beyond reasonable doubt. So if a person has to be convicted, if there is a 50-50 chance, then the law says that the person will be acquitted. Okay. So the court will say, due to lack of evidence, or because the prosecution has failed to prove its case beyond reasonable doubt, that is why you people are acquitted or discharged from the case. Now, if that be the case, then it doesn't become a false case. It merely becomes a case which that particular victim or alleged victim has not been able to prove. So it doesn't become a false case. We practically, we don't ever see the court saying that you have falsely implicated this person in this case. So if the courts come to that conclusion, then there is a provision that if a false case is filed, then A, B, C, D things can be done. I'm coming to that later. Another type of cases are, you told me about DV and other cases. These are private complaints. These are not started by the police. The provision under the Domestic Violence Act, these proceedings are purely private complaints. So A files a private complaint under DV Act against B. Again, the process is there is no charge sheet, there is no investigation, obviously. That particular person who has filed the DV case, she is called the aggrieved person. That aggrieved person has again, she needs to prove the case against the respondents beyond reasonable doubt. One thing you have to keep in mind here, that in DV cases, there are no provisions for imprisonment. Yes, there are provisions if there is disobedience of the court's order and all. Otherwise, there are no provisions for imprisonment. So in this private complaint, if that particular lady files a complaint against the husband and in-laws and so on, and if he is not able to prove her case, then again the court says that just because you have not been able to prove your case beyond reasonable doubt, these persons are discharged from this case. So the concept of false case then goes out of the window. Yes, if it can be proved that that lady or the victim, the alleged victim, has intentionally filed a false case against the husband, if that can be, then the husband or whoever being the respondent, the in-laws and others, they can approach the court for defamation, for malicious prosecution. But again, these are academic answers. In reality, it doesn't happen.
That's what.
In reality, it doesn't happen. So only if a false case is proved, then yes, the person who is being victimized for those false cases, they can prove the court. They can approach the court with an proceeding for defamation or malicious prosecution.
Okay. And
That's it.
when we talk about this kind of harassment, the domestic harassment, so domestic abuse is not something that can be only faced by a wife, no? As we have seen nowadays, we are seeing that even the wife is harassing the husband. A few days back, we have also seen a CCTV footage. This case was from Rajasthan, where it was shown in the footage that the wife is beating the husband mercilessly. And there are many such cases जहाँ पे CCTV कैमरा होते भी नहीं है. तो वहां पे like within the four walls, what is happening that we do not know, but the husbands, they complain that my wife is torturing me and she is asking me to do whatever she wants me to, और अगर मैंने वैसा नहीं किया then she is threatening me to that she will file a false case against me. तो किसी के साथ अगर ऐसी situations हो रही हो, ऐसी घटनाएं हो रही हो, then what can that person do to save himself from or getting into such kind of traps or situations? What kind of precautions should someone take?
Firstly, talking of abuse can be divided into two parts. One is mental persecution, mental abuse, emotional abuse, which is not tangible, actually. And another part is physical abuse, which can be seen, which is actually tangible. Now, for the mental abuse and mental persecution part, there is no law for men. Practically no criminal law, at least for men. The only option open to them is to fight for a divorce on the ground of mental cruelty. So it becomes a civil wrong. Okay. So in case of mental persecution or mental or emotional cruelty, the husband can only file an application for divorce for mental cruelty. Now, for physical abuse, there are sections of IPCs there in Indian Penal Code and other laws as well. In Indian Penal Code, so if the wife beats up the husband, then obviously the husband can approach the police or the court for getting relief under the relevant sections of IPC. It depends.
So what I wanted to ask, like before you said that if we can prove that the wife or the woman has intentionally filed a false case, as you said, then the victimized party or the aggrieved party can go and file for a defamation. But there is a point,
or rather the exact provision is malicious prosecution. But there are for that particular man can file a complaint for damages. That is, but that's a civil thing. Yes.
Okay, because why I asked this question is that according to the definition of this defamation, that it is only when a person is insulting you on a public platform. So if a man wants to go for defamation, then can you just explain in what way he should do that?
See, if you ask me, then I will say technically defamation will not lie. Why? Why defamation will not lie here? Because in defamation there has to be an imputation. Okay. Secondly, that imputation has to be a false imputation. Thirdly, that imputation needs to be published. Either it has to be libel or slander. I mean, it has to be published in either through print or it has to be published verbally through different persons. Okay. And then the person who sees this publication, this false imputation, the respect of that person who is being victimized, that person in the estimation of those person gets lowered. So there are a lot of things for this defamation, of things which are covered in defamation. So yes, there can be a complaint for malicious prosecution, the victimized men can approach the civil court filing for damages against for those false cases. And yes, there are provisions in Indian Penal Code where if it is proved that the woman has made a false submission or a false statement on oath before a court of law, okay, so that becomes perjury, that becomes practicing of fraud upon the court of law. For that, there is provision in IPC.
Okay.
So one thing, if it is seen that if it is proved that the person, that particular woman has filed a false complaint before the learned court or before the police station against the man, or it is seen that she has given false evidence on oath, evidence is given on oath before the court, she has given false evidence on oath, then yes, the husband can file a complaint for perjury before that concerned court. So these are the two provisions. If it is proved that the woman has filed a false complaint or a false evidence, given a false evidence on oath, then a complaint for perjury can be made. Otherwise, there are provisions for filing a suit for damages, which we call malicious prosecution.
Okay, understood. Then, like the Indian judiciary, we all know that it is very slow. One case might go on, and we just do not know that how long a case might, take to end. So, in many instances, we have seen that ऐसे बहुत सारे लोग हैं जिनको फंसाया जाता है केस में. Might be rape, might be 490, or might be anything. And then he goes to jail, trials chalte rehte hain. Then after a long period of time, he proves to be not guilty, innocent actually. Then, do you think that court should do something for these people so that they can move ahead in life, because they have lost so many of the years of their life, they have lost their dignity, their job, and many things. So do you think, or that the court should take some steps in helping these people who are implicated in false cases and later they are proven to be innocent, so that they can move ahead in life?
So the problem is much more deep rooted actually. Obviously, I think like that. Obviously, any sane person, any civilized person will always want that any trial should end expeditiously. But the problem is why I'm saying deep-rooted, because the percentage of judges, the proportion of judges and the population, it's a very, very poor thing in India. Okay. So we don't have enough judges.
Okay.
If we consider our population, then there are not enough judges. There are not enough courts. So these courts, the lower judiciary, the High Court, even the Supreme Court, they are overburdened. They're totally overburdened. It is not physically possible for the judges, even if they want to finish a case as expeditiously as possible, to finish it actually. Because firstly, the judiciary has to depend on a lot of things. It has to depend on the executive as well. It has to depend, because see, the witnesses are being brought by the police. Okay. If there is any warrant against somebody, that warrant is executed through the executive, through the police and all. So firstly, the courts have to depend on the executive as well. Secondly, the biggest problem, which I said earlier, is that the number of courts, it needs to be increased. The number of judges needs to be increased. Otherwise, it is not humanly possible for the judges to do things faster. Now, obviously, this is this right is this is a constitutional right of a person to get his case done or get his trial done as expeditiously as possible. This is obviously in our constitution. This has been time and again repeated by the Supreme Court in different judgments.
Yes.
But well, even if the Supreme Court has done so, but it has done very little actually to what should I say, to implement all these things, to strengthen the basic structure of judiciary. So there the problem lies. Obviously there is cases should should not run for so many years. There are cases which are running for, say, 15, 20, 25 years. A person is languishing in jail without the trial being conducted for 5, 7, 10 years. And what happens
That's
to
what.
that person? What happens to that person when that person is ultimately acquitted from that case? The state or the de facto complainant, they are not indemnifying that person, right? So after 10 years, 15 years, when the person is acquitted from a case, and if he is languishing in jail for, say, 5, 7, 10 years, then that's no point. But yes, but this is the hard reality over here. It's very unfortunate, but this is a hard reality.
Yes,
And
this is
see,
the hard reality.
regarding the cases which are pending in the lower judiciary, there what can be done if the cases goes on forever? Then we move the Calcutta, we move the High Court, we move the concerned High Court for a direction upon the lower judiciary to expedite the matter. So the High Court issues a direction on the lower judiciary to expedite the matter. But then again, how is it even possible? With this infrastructure, it is not even possible to expedite, even if the lower judiciary wants to. So these are the problems, these are the ground realities. But yes, obviously, it is a person's basic right to get his trial done or get his case be expedited as fast as possible. It's obvious.
And when we talk about the speedy judgments or the slow judgment of the Indian constitution or the jury system, here one more party is involved, that is the police. Like in many cases, we have seen that the police, they are reluctant to take any kind of cases from the men. Like if a man is going and telling that I am being harassed, the police wo cases nahi leti hai. They are shooed away from the police station. Then if a woman files a case, then the police will never try to do the investigation properly. They will just come and arrest. Even though now recently just a judge like Supreme Court said that you cannot arrest someone within a
Hmm.
2 months if a 498A is filed. But before
Not,
that, there were
not
so
much.
many cases that कि एक लड़की ने केस फाइल किया तो immediately वो लोग आके police will come and they will just arrest the person. They will not even do proper investigation. So like what do you think is the reason behind this? Any pressure from the Women's Commission or any other pressure on them that they are not doing their job properly?
Firstly, to the social stigma around it. As I said earlier, the men are also responsible for this because of this social stigma. Because of this social stigma, the men do not approach the police if they're beaten up or harassed by their wives. Nowadays, they do. But earlier on, that too, the frequency, the proportion, if you see, the complaints filed by the women and the complaints filed by the men, it's a huge difference between the numbers. Now, if yes, so one is the social stigma around it. Second is the civil society movements. The civil society movements, in the sense, the women rights movement, there's a long history to the women rights movement for men's rights. These were not hard, say 5, 7 years back. This is a very recent phenomenon, and it's kudos to you people, organizations like you and other organizations which are here in Calcutta and other districts and cities, that now this problem is being brought to the discourse. This was not even in the discourse. Women's rights movement, it has a long history.
Yes.
Men never used to talk about their rights. And see, this is a very welcome thing that you being a woman, you are
Yes.
talking of men's rights. Yes. Here, you must be knowing Nandini. Nandini is a woman. He is heading of men's rights movement. These are very welcome changes because we are not talking of bashing women here. It's all about bringing an equality to the society.
Equality, yes.
It's a balance. It's a question of balance and equality. So yes, the this civil society movement, which was lacking earlier, but it's a very welcome change that these things are brought into the table for discourse at least. So we hope to see changes in future.
Yes.
And I'm touching on another issue. If it happens that the police doesn't take a complaint of a man, if he is being harassed or abused or threatened or whatever by his wife or by any other woman for that matter, if the police does not take a complaint or does not entertain that particular person, then that particular person can approach the higher authority of the police. He can
Okay.
file a complaint with the higher authority of the police, followed by a complaint, followed by an application or a complaint under Section 156 Clause 3 of the CRPC before the court, where that particular person will seek a direction from the court that the court will direct the officer in charge of that particular police station to start a complaint on the basis of to start a case on the basis of the complaint of that particular man. So there are recourses. It's not that there are not recourses. So if the police station does not entertain you, yes, you can file a complaint over by email, through email or through registered post. You can then file a complaint followed by file a complaint with the local, the higher authorities, the deputy commissioner of police and so on. And after that, even if after filing all those complaints, the police doesn't start a case or doesn't take any action, you can always go to the court and seek for a direction upon the police to start a case based on that complaint. So there are recourses.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask actually, that if the police is not, acting or not doing its investigation, not doing its duty properly, then is there any kind of, punishment or penalty for that investigating officer?
Not penalty as such, but yes, what do we want? We want case to be started on the basis of our complaint, right?
Yes,
That can be done. That can be done by filing an application before the court. The court will give a direction upon the police. And yes, if the police doesn't listen to that direction, obviously there are provisions.
Yes, because few days back, just one of our followers, he was like tortured by his wife, and then she implicated him in 498A, DV, etc., etc. Then there was one incident where his wife attacked him with a knife. He went to the police station to file a complaint, but and also she was threatening her husband that she would commit suicide and this and that. So. जब और कोई चारा नहीं बचा, then he went to the police station, but the police shockingly he said that so what can we do if your wife is threatening you for suicide? If she dies, then you go to jail. He was told like this कि अगर वो मरती है तो हम तुमको अरेस्ट करेंगे, तुम जेल जाओगे, हम क्या करेंगे अगर तुम्हारी बीवी सुसाइड करने की धमकी दे रही है. And he said that I will just shoot out of the police station. So these things are happening where they are not at all entertained.
And the problem again is threatening to commit suicide is not a crime. Putting mental pressure upon somebody is not upon a man is not a crime.
Upon a man.
Upon a man is putting mental pressure upon a man is not a crime. So these comes under the provisions of civil law. Okay. But I said you can always file an application for divorce for this. This is a mental cruelty, mental persecution. You can file an application for divorce for this. But unfortunately, there are no provisions in IPC or other laws for this. Okay. But yes, what I would suggest is if such things happen, irrespective of the fact whether the police will take any cognizance of those complaints, or whether the police will entertain those complaints or not, file a complaint with the police station.
Okay.
At least that will safeguard you a bit. And at least if anything untowards happen, then we can go to the court and say we were apprehending this and we filed complaints for the police. So if anything happens, file a complaint with the police. Leave it. It's upon the police. It's up to the police whether they will take any action or not. But my duty as a victim is to file a complaint.
Okay. And now I would like to come to this one topic known as the marital rape. From the past few months, actually, the Supreme Court has not given its final verdict, though. But there are so many women organizations and women lawyers, advocates, and also male advocates are there who is wanting to criminalize marital rape. Even though there is another section already where having sexual intercourse against the wish and will of the wife is already a crime, but again they're wanting ki ekdam, you have to criminalize marital rape.
It's not, no, it's not a crime actually. It's during separation, if you do that, then it becomes a crime.
Yeah, so if suppose marital rape gets criminalized, then like if a wife complains that my husband tried to rape me, then on what basis she will put the evidence? Like who knows what is going to happen in that four walls, within the four walls? Only that two persons. So what is the basis of such kind of complaints?
See, if we talk of marital rape, then from where does this concept come? Actually, what used to happen earlier, or I suppose it happens still now in remote villages and all, where a person is being forcefully married against, a woman is being forcefully married against her wish, when she
Yes,
has
yes.
not even attained her, when she is a minor, when she has not even attained her puberty. 12, 13, 14 years में शादी हो जाती
हाँ,
है.
बिल्कुल. हाँ.
We stay in a city, we stay in a modern city, in a modern society. We don't see these things around us. But it's a ground reality that this happens.
It's happening. Yeah.
So to cover this part, there is a need of criminalizing all these things. But these things, if you are committing sexual intercourse against the wish of somebody who is a minor, or in fact the wish of the minor is not even taken into account. So even if it's your wife and she is a minor, if you're committing any sexual assault upon her or sexual intercourse upon her forcefully, then that is already a crime. If she is a minor, then it's already a crime. During separation, if you are having sexual intercourse with your wife during separation against her wish, then that's also covered. Then what's the requirement? What's the need for the remaining? Because see, I'm not saying these tortures don't happen. Even if a woman is above 18 years, then also rape can happen. Of rape in the sense forceful sexual intercourse can happen on that person, can happen on that woman. But it's the same for the other gender also, right? It might happen that a man is being forced to have sexual intercourse with his wife. Yes, it can happen. So this is, what do I say? Where do we strike the balance? Because
That's
if
what.
this one, the Pandora's box will open. You never know what will happen. Never know. But see, when 498, the intent of the legislature might be good. I'm not questioning the intent of the legislature. See, when 498A, it was not originally in the Indian Penal Code. 498A. So it was substituted, it was inserted or incorporated later, right? So why was this? Because there were numerous instances of dowry dates, torture for dowry, etc., etc. So the legislature thought it would be prudent to bring such a law. Welcome change. Who will take advantage of this law? The person who are actually victimized, because these things were happening mainly in villages and small towns and villages in interiors of India. But what started happening? Unfortunately, urban educated, I'm not generalizing, but yes, a huge chunk of urban educated women started taking advantage of this.
Yes.
Then what happened? This section, it became, when I say 5, 10 years, 10, 12 years back, so we used to have flurry of cases of under section 498 and the allegations were of similar nature. And ultimately, all of those cases, at least maximum of those cases, ended up in a mutual divorce where things were settled between the parties and they opted for a mutual divorce, and the wife came and she cannot withdraw. Well, she almost withdraw these charges. She used to withdraw those charges, get a mutual divorce, get a lump sum amount of alimony. This was the normal practice. And what used to happen? Say an in-law, who doesn't even stay with the husband and wife, they were also being implicated. Who has come once during the shadi, she was also,
Yes,
he or
yes.
she. When these things happened, these things started happening, then the Supreme Court came down heavily on this. Then the Supreme Court said, no, you cannot just arrest somebody like that. What you were referring earlier, it was in Arnesh Kumar versus State of Bihar's judgment, where the Supreme Court said, in offenses which are punishable within 7 years, in these cases, you have to issue a notice to the accused person first. Give a notice to them. If they come before the police station and cooperate with the investigation, then you cannot arrest those persons. So what happened now? The 498A cases come. It has come down. The numbers have come. Now, what is now because of this judgment and because of this rampant misuse of the law, the persons who were actually victims of situations, they are suffering.
Yes.
The same will happen. The same will happen if marital rape is given a nod from the parliament. If the legislature and if the Supreme Court upholds this, then there will be a big problem.
What do you think, sir? Marital rape there is any chance of it being criminalized?
It might be.
Might
It
be.
might be there.
Okay.
Because there's a pressure because the legislature wants it actually. And why they want it, that's a different discussion altogether. Because there are other stakes as well of the political parties. But it might. And if it does not, then the same thing will happen. There will be gross misuse of the law.
Yes, yes, of course. There will be a lot of misuse of these laws.
Yes, yes. Because consent, whether a sexual relationship or sexual intercourse or whatever, whether it was consensual or not, how do we at all, between a husband and wife, how do we at all prove it?
Now, we cannot obviously install a CCTV in the bedroom.
No, obviously. And if the Supreme Court has said in rape cases that the testimony of the prosecutrix is enough. The prosecutrix is a victim. The testimony of the victim is enough. And if the Supreme Court goes on and says that the testimony of the wife is enough, then this institution called marriage will crumble.
Marriage? Yes, yes, definitely.
Marriage as an institution, we don't know, Antara. Marriage as an institution, we people are married, that's okay, but we don't know about the coming generation, at least the urban generation. Marriage is almost a failed institution.
Yes, now it is. Now it is a failed institution. Then here I would like to ask you one more question, is that the lawyers who takes up such cases, so do you think the lawyers, they also have a role in this? Like if there are many lawyers who know that this is actually a false case, but then in many cases we have seen that still they take up such cases, and some lawyers also misguide their clients and they ask the women, ki, you file this case, aise karo, waise karo. So what do you think, that lawyers also have a role to play in the increasing number of false cases or decreasing number of false cases?
The number is not decreasing, firstly. And I'm not defending my community over here, but one thing, under the Advocates Act, the lawyers cannot refuse a case. Okay. So if somebody comes to me and says, I want to file such and such cases, these cases, or these complaints, then I'm duty bound to take that matter. If I am being paid my fees and all that, otherwise it will be a professional misconduct. One thing. But yes, there is another part of it. Lawyers, they are also social creatures. They are a part of the judicial system. We are court officers. So there is a certain amount of responsibility upon us. And the responsibility of lawyers are more than ordinary citizens. This I will agree with you. And on that part, it is the duty of the lawyers when a person is coming to you and when whoever, irrespective of the gender, if somebody is coming to you and saying, I want to harass my husband, that's why I want to file A, B, C, D cases, then it is the duty of that lawyer to say, no, you don't harass your, don't do this. these are the implications. Why will you implicate him in false cases and all? These, I'm not saying this should be in a sermon, but at least we should talk to our clients, and we should um, try to convince them at least not to indulge and not indulge in all this stuff. The
Yes,
problem with
yes.
lawyers, a section of lawyer, is that they not only fail to convince, they actually indulge.
Indulge,
They
yes.
become,
That's the main problem.
it's a big problem. We have in our society, in our domain, we have talked about all these issues, but ultimately, see, at the end of the day, it's your private chamber, it's your private practice. So nobody can, we can say these things, we can request, we can try to educate our lawyers regarding this, try to make them aware, but yes, this is a problem. But yes, the lawyers refuse to take a case. Just because I think this person who is sitting opposite to me is stating false facts. The facts which she is stating is false, and this is my idea that she is trying to harass her husband and all that. That's why I cannot refuse to take a case. That I cannot do. But yes, that duty is on me, that I should try to educate that person. I should try to convince that person not to indulge into false complaints.
Okay. And what message do you have for all our followers?
First thing is, obviously, your followers are all men, or we are talking of men's rights, obviously, even if they are, we're talking of men's rights. First, remove that tag of alpha man. First, you have to remove that tag of alpha man. You can cry, you can be beaten up by your wife, you can be harassed, you can be persecuted. Remove that tag of alpha man. Go talk about these issues. Talk with your friends, talk with your family members, talk with the authorities regarding this. Because firstly, these things we need to have a discourse, a proper discourse. First, we need to discuss all this stuff between our in the society. Then only, if these things come in the discourse, then only the civil society can start a movement. Otherwise not. And if the civil society starts a movement, if the civil society movements it will obviously create a pressure upon the legislature as well as the judiciary. Okay, be aware. They will, who knows, because if the civil society movement can create a pressure upon the legislature and the judiciary, then who knows, in near future, we won't get a law, we won't get a section like 498B or something like that.
Yes.
Torture is mutual, na? Obviously, torture is mutual. If a husband, yes, if a husband can mentally or mentally mental persecution or mental cruelty, inflict mental persecution or mental cruelty upon his wife, the wife can also do that. And that is recognized in Indian law, because the divorce law says that. So if it is recognized in Indian law, then why not the women will be punished? Right? Then why not this particular section, this particular provision is there in the IPC? Why isn't it there? That we don't call this equality, we don't call this a balanced law. Because if mental cruelty or mental persecution is recognized in Indian law by a woman upon a man, and if there is a provision for women in the Indian Penal Code, then there should be a provision for men in the Indian Penal Code as well. So the message is simple: we should be aware of our rights, firstly, and wherever the legislature and the judiciary and the executive are failing, we should raise our voice. We should create a discourse so that a civil society movement starts from that, and a pressure can be created upon the legislature as well as the judiciary to take up men's issues more seriously. But for that, we need to leave all those tag of alpha man and bring this in the discourse. That's it.
So thank you so much, Mr. Ganguly, for joining us. And this session was really, really very important and informative. And we are sure that people watching this video will be are going to benefit in a lot many ways. And we're also hopeful to do another session with you on another topic related to men's rights and harassments. And therefore, we are really, really thankful to you for joining us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And thank you to you people, because as I told you, you people are bringing these issues on the table.
Yes, we're
That's
trying.
the primary concern. That's the primary concern. So kudos to you all.
Thank
And
you so
again, we are
much.
saying that we are not here. We are not here talking about bashing women. All we are talking of is about equality and balance.
Yes, that's what. Even we get many messages from females that you are women haters, but we tell them we are not here women haters. We are trying to bring gender
We're
equality.
talking about equality here.
Yes, we are talking about
And
equality,
there
but
are some,
women.
obviously the laws needs to be gender neutral. And why only men? Even the third genders, they are also suffering for the laws not being gender neutral.
Yes, yes, of course, yes. So thank you so much for joining us and taking out time for us. We are hopeful to see you soon with another discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.